HASAN ATIYAH
Uh-oh.
The computer not working.
And
I think we have an interpreter logged in for our first case. We're going to be calling al-GBURI. Do we have our Arabic interpreter logged in?
I'm here, Your Honor.
And Attorney DeMarco, are you good to go?
just about. I'm so sorry. Every time. Good to go.
All right, we will go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus HASAN AL-GBURI.
ولاية ويسكونسن ضد حسن جباري.
No.
That's case 26 CF 799.
القضية رقم 26 CF 799.
I believe we have an Arabic interpreter, Shamsi Al-Ghazi, appearing by Zoom.
معنا المترجم العربي شمسي الغزي يحضر عن طريق زوم.
Mr. Al-Ghazi, I'll just swear you in if you'd raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that you will truly, accurately, completely, and impartially interpret the proceedings?
I do.
Just a reminder for counsel and the parties will need to speak in short sentences and allow a pause for the interpreter to interpret things.
لو سمحتوا تتكلموا بجمل قصيرة وببطء حتى يترجم المترجم.
Could we get the state's appearance?
مع حضور الولاية.
ADA Cecilia DeMarco for the state.
المحامية ديماركو نيابة عن الولاية.
الصوت مو واضح.
The sound is not clear.
All right. I'm not sure what we can do about that. Mr. Al-Ghazi, if you can try to speak up, maybe it'll come through better here.
I will, Your Honor. هل تسمعني الآن سيدي؟
نعم.
All right, Your Honor.
HASAN AL-GBURI appears in person and in custody.
حسن الجباري يحضر شخصيا وبحوزة تحت الحجز.
Represented for today's hearing by attorney Will Anderson from the Public Defender's Office.
يمثله اليوم المحامي ويل أندرسون من مكتب الدفاع العام.
He has received a copy of the criminal complaint in this case.
لقد حصل على نسخة من لائحة الجرائم اليوم.
There are 4 charges in the complaint. Mr. Al-GBURI, would you like the charges read to you today, or could you read them on your own at a later time?
هنالك 4 مخالفات مذكورة اليوم. السيد الجباري، هل ترغب أن تقرأ المحكمة الجرائم ال4 ضدك أم أنت قادر أن تقرأها بنفسك؟
لا ما أعرف.
I don't know.
We would waive the reading of the charges. Ask the court to enter not guilty pleas to the misdemeanors.
نحن ندخل مقولة غير مذنب للتهم.
It looks like Mr. Al-GBURI has not had a chance to speak to someone from the Public Defender's Office yet, so if the court could provide him with that information.
لا يبدو أن السيد الجباري قد سنحت له الفرصة أن يتكلم مع أحد من مكتب الدفاع العام، لذلك نطلب أن تسمح له المحكمة بهذه الفرصة.
And could I also ask Mr. Al-GBURI if the address of 2602 King James Way in Fitchburg is the correct mailing address? He's nodding his head as I say that.
Could you repeat the address, please?
Sure. 2602 King James Way.
سيد الجباري، هل عنوانك هو 2602 بكينج على King James Way?
نعم.
Yes, that is correct.
And that's all for me. Thank you.
هذا كل شيء، شكرا.
Right. Mr. El-GBURI, if you can't hire an attorney on your own after today, you should contact the public defender's office.
سيد الجباري، إن أنت لم تكن قادر أن تحضر محامي خاص بك، عليك التواصل مع مكتب الدفاع العام.
The deputy gave you their contact information.
الشرطي أعطاك رقم التواصل معهم.
If you are not eligible for a public defender and can't hire an attorney on your own, you could apply for a county appointed attorney.
إذا لم تتأهل أن يمثلوك وإن كنت غير قادر أن تتكلف بتكاليف محامي، باستطاعتك أن تطلب أن يتم تعيين محامي ولاية مقاطعة لك.
And the public defender's office is a good resource to point you in the right direction for that.
ومكتب الدفاع العام هو مصدر جيد للمساعدة لتوجيهك في الطريق الصحيح.
I'll make findings of probable cause for the charges.
سوف أدخل مسؤول إمكانية حدوث هذه الجرائم ضد هذه التهم.
I'll enter not guilty pleas to the misdemeanors.
سوف أدخل مقولة غير مذنب للجنح.
And then I believe we may have several victims who wanted to make a statement.
وأعتقد أيضا هنالك عدة ضحايا يرغبون بأن يقولوا مقولة.
If they're on Zoom, if they could unmute first.
إذا كانوا على زوم أرجو أن يفتحوا الميكروفون.
And I'm not sure if all three parties are going to make a statement or one party's making a statement for all of the parties.
ولست على علم إن كان كل واحد منهم سوف يلقي مقولة أم إن كان أحدهم فقط سوف يلقي مقولة نيابة عن الجميع.
If there's going to be multiple statements, we would want parties to do it one at a time.
إذا كان هنالك عدة مقولات أرجو أن يتم أن يلقي كل شخص مقولته بدوره.
So if we could have a party who wishes to make a statement, just identify themselves, and then they can say what they think the court should know about bail or bond conditions.
لذلك الشخص الذي رغب أن يقول مقولة، الرجاء أن تفتحوا الخط وتذكروا ماذا ترغبون للمحكمة أن تعلم منكم بخصوص تحديد شروط الكفالة.
So I think the person or persons who is identified as a victim are unmuted. Now is their opportunity to identify themselves and make their statement.
شخص أو الأشخاص الذين يبدو على أنهم مذكورون هنا كضحايا، جهازكم مفتوح أو هذا وقتكم لتقولوا مقولتكم.
And they have a virtual hand raised. I don't know if that means they're having technological issues.
يبدو أنهم رفعوا يدهم ولا أعلم إن كان هنالك مشاكل تقنية.
All right. The clerk thinks perhaps that they logged out and logged back in. If the victims on the Al-GBURI case can hear, please say so.
يبدو تقول لي كاتبة المحكمة أنهم خرجوا ودخلوا مرة أخرى للغرفة الافتراضية. إن كان الضحية في قضية السيد الإجباري موجودون هنا، رجاء أن تقولوا شيئا.
And I think they just muted and then unmuted.
وأعتقد أنهم قد أوقفوا الميكروفون ثم فتحوه مرة أخرى.
Attorney DeMarco, I don't know if you've heard if the victims are having technological issues.
لا
I
أعلم
don't have,
ديماركو إن كنت على علم إن كان الضحايا يعانون من بعض المشاكل التقنية.
I don't have any information. I'm sorry.
ليس لدي معلومات آسفة.
Well, if the Zoom app isn't working for them, I think they can call in by phone.
إذا كان تطبيق الزوم لا يعمل لديهم فباستطاعتهم الاتصال هاتفيا بالمحكمة.
But if the victim wants to make a statement in the HASAN ATIYAH case, they would need to speak up and let us know who they are.
إن كانت الضحية في قضية السيد حسن الجباري ترغب أن تلقي بمقولة فعليهم التكلم الآن وذكر من هم.
All right, I think the victims have audio.
أعتقد أن الضحية لديها الصوت.
نقدر نتكلم؟
Can we speak?
Yes, we would want one person to speak at a time and to identify themselves and then tell me what they think are appropriate bail or bond conditions.
لو سمحتوا أريد أن يتكلم كل شخص بدوره وأن تتكلموا ببطء وأن تذكروا اسمكم وماذا ترغبون بالقول بخصوص الكفالة.
Okay, I will start. My name is Dane Al-GBURI. I am his eldest daughter. I am supposed to be quote unquote one of the victims, but I was not planning on any of that happening, and I would not claim myself. I'm sorry.
أنا دينا بنت الجبوري، أنا بنته الكبرى. كان المفروض أن أكون ضحية ولكني لم أخطط لأي من هذا أن يحدث.
I wouldn't say I'm a victim. I'm not upset with anything my dad has done. He did not hurt me. He did not lay his hands on me. I did not think things were gonna go this far.
أنا لم يؤذيني أبي ولم يضع يده علي. لم أكن أعتقد بأن الأمور سوف تتطور لهذه الدرجة.
At the moment, things were very heated and it was complicated. There was so much going on, and there was like a misunderstanding. We did not think that it was gonna get this serious. Sure, maybe like at the moment we're all getting interviewed and stuff, but I think like the heat of the moment turned things like out of control.
أعتقد أن الوضع كان حامي بعض الشيء ولم نتخيل أنها سوف تتفاقم لهذه الدرجة. لم يحدث شيء وأعتقد أن الأمور خرجت من نطاق السيطرة.
Things have never been like this. My dad has never laid hands on us. Even gotten mad. He's sure have drank before, but and maybe like it all depends on the time. Maybe sometimes he's a little upset. Sometimes he's actually pretty quiet and chill. But I think this time maybe he drank too much and things got out of control. But this is the first time anything like this has happened. So like we were all like worried for him and we didn't know how to handle the situation.
هذه أول مرة يحدث شيء كهذا. قد يكون قد شرب ببعض الشيء ولكنه كان تحت السيطرة. لم يحدث شيء كهذا من قبل.
My mom maybe would like to say some things as well, and he also was charged for child abuse, and we have again the victim Malak Al-GBURI, the child with us, and she would like to speak as well if that's okay.
أمي أيضا ترغب أن تقول شيئا ولقد تم اتهامه أيضا بإساءة معاملة الأطفال والطفل ملك الجبوري موجودة هنا أيضا وهي أيضا ترغب أن تقول شيء إن كان ممكنا.
That's fine. We just need one person to speak at a time and to identify themselves first.
Sounds
ما
good.
في أي مشكلة بس نرغب أن كل شخص يتكلم لوحده ويعرف عن نفسه عندما يبدأ بالكلام.
أنا أفضل أتكلم بالعربي إذا ممكن لأن إنجليزيتي مو كلش قوي.
I prefer to speak in Arabic if possible since my English is not that good.
That's fine.
تفضلي.
حسن هو زوجي واللي
حسن
تعرضوا
is my
لهاي
husband.
المشكلة كليتهم هم أطفالي يعني المشكلة هي اللي صارت إنه يعني هو شرب ويعني
And
جا من برا هو متعصب
And the problem that occurred happened with my children. The problem, he did drink, and when he drank, he got upset.
هو ضايج من برا فاجى متعصب يعني شاف الأولاد طلعوا يعني برا هم كانوا بلسان روم فإحنا بعاداتنا وبتقاليدنا إنه صعبة البنات يكونون يعني للساعة 11 أو الساعة 12 هم ما نايمين أو مو بفراشاتهم فلهذا السبب هو عصب عليهم يعني انتوا وين كنتوا؟ ايش كنتوا تسوون؟ ففقد السيطرة على نفسه بالتعامل وياهم يعني صدرت أصوات وضاجة ويعني أول مرة تصير وما متوقعين من أبوهم يعني هيك يسوي بيهم هذه أول مرة صار فهو سحبهم يعني سحبهم من
Your
تيشيرتاتهم.
Honor, the interpreter would like to ask the court to instruct the victim to speak in short sentences, please.
يعني
أوكي.
Again, as stated previously, parties need to speak in very short sentences and then pause to allow the interpreter to interpret.
أوكي.
لو
أوكي.
سمحتوا تتكلموا بجمل قصيرة وتعطوا وقت للمترجم حتى يترجم. This whole issue happened with my daughters. He came back drunk. He came back home. He was upset, and he saw that my daughters were still not in their beds asleep, and it was like 11 or 12, and he was talking to them and arguing, why are you still not asleep? And their voices rose up.
هذا اللي صار فقلت لك يعني إنه
قولي له انه هم كانوا برا يعني هم مو كانوا بس ما نايمين هم كانوا يعني برا البيت وشافهم يدخلون البيت وهو عصب لانه الوقت متاخر.
They were outside the house, and he saw them enter the house, and he was upset because it was very late.
Okay, we can't have victims go back and forth. I got that individual's statement, and I believe the mother was making a statement. So if she's concluded, then we'll move on to the next victim.
لن أسمح لأن يتكلم الضحية بغير دورها. أخذنا مقولة هذه الضحية وانتقلنا إلى الأم، وسوف نأخذ مقولتها الآن.
اوكي هو هذا اللي صار فيعني قلت لك هو سحبهم من تيشيرتاتهم وهذا اللي بالعاده يعني احنا هذه عاداتنا وتقاليدنا انه يعني كلش اثرت بي يعني وين كانوا بهذا الوقت.
As I said, he pulled them by their t-shirts, and the fact that this happened, this is against our customs and culture, and that's what upset him.
اي فهذا اللي صار يعني كانوا كلش يعني كانوا خايفين انه يصير اشياء بعد انه تكون اصعب يعني ما متوقعه انه تصير.
They were worried that something bigger might happen, something that is unexpected that could have possibly happened.
لأن هو من يشرب صوته يعلى ويعني شوية صار صعب بالتصرف ما يقبل يسمع من أي أحد فهذا اللي خافوا منه إنه لا يصير شيء أكبر بعد.
Because when he drinks, his voice rises and he becomes difficult to deal with, and that's what they were worried about, that this might escalate.
بالعادة هو يعني حنين عليهم كلش هواية ويحبهم ويعني ما مأذيهم في يوم من الأيام فما عندنا أي مشاكل وياه بالأيام العادية أو بالطبيعة يعني كل زين عليهم.
Usually he is very tender and loving and takes care of them. He never hurt them, and he's never done this before.
فلهذا السبب إنه يعني خافوا لين أول مرة شايفين هيك شيء وهو معصب كلش هواية وما يعرف يتصرف فهذا اللي خلاهم شوية يعني يصيرون قلقين أكثر.
And that's why they were scared. They were worried because they've never seen him like this before, so they didn't know what to expect. And that's why they were concerned.
All right, thank you. And was there a third victim who wanted to make a statement?
شكرا. هل هنالك ضحية أخرى ترغب أن تلقي مقولة؟
أي هذا ملاك.
Okay,
Can
I
you
just
just
like
identify yourself, however you're comfortable?
لو
I'm
سمحتي
ملاك
تعرفي
الجبوري.
بنفسك وتتكلمي بجمل قصيرة.
Okay, I'm Malak El-Jaburi, his middle child.
I am ملاك الجبوري. أنا ملك الجبوري بنته الوسطى.
And I'd like to clarify, I did not get hit. I got yanked and pushed inside because my dad did think I was outside.
لم يضربني أبي ولكنه سحبني للداخل لأنني لم أكن في الداخل.
And I went downstairs. I just did not want the problem to escalate, so I just made up any excuse to get him out of the house for the night.
وأنا اختلقت حجة ذهبت إلى الأسفل واختلقت حجة لكي أخرجه من المنزل لتلك الليلة.
And my dad has never laid hands on me or my siblings before.
وأبي لم يضربني أو يضرب إخوتي أبدا في السابق.
And he would just get drunk and slightly mad, but he's never laid a hand on us before.
قد يسكر ويكون غاضب ولكنه لم يضربنا مسبقا أبدا.
I'd also like to clarify that my family values one another and things only fall off when he drinks.
وأريد أيضا أن أوضح أن هنالك مبادئ في عائلتي والأمور تتدهور فقط عندما يسكر.
All right, thank you.
شكرا.
If I could just speak again just one last time for me and Dalia Al-Jaburi, she's sitting right next to me.
هل ممكن أتكلم مرة أخرى بالنيابة عني وعن ضياء وهي أيضا تجلس بجنبي؟
Very briefly.
I'm
بسرعة لو
sorry.
سمحت.
I would just like to clarify that I do not want to press any charges, and again, this is all just a misunderstanding, and something like this I don't think would ever happen again.
بس أرغب أن أوضح أنني لن أرغب أن أرفع قضية وأن هذا سوء تفاهم وشيء كهذا لم يحدث ولن يحدث أبدا.
Right, thank you.
شكرا.
And Attorney DeMarco, the state's position.
المحامية ديماركو موقف الولاية.
Thank you. The state is recommending a signature bond. I think this is altogether not a cash bail case, given the defendant's lack of history.
الولاية تطلب كفالة خطية. لا نعتقد أن هنالك حاجة لكفالة مالية بسبب عدم وجود تاريخ مسبق للمتهم.
As far as non-monetary conditions go, I'll start with one that I think all parties can probably agree on. We're asking that the defendant not consume or possess any alcohol during this case.
وبخصوص الشروط نطلب ما أعتقد أنه مرغوب من الجميع وهو أن لا يتناول المتهم أي مشروبات روحية.
I understand the victim's positions, and I'm aware that there are many factors at play in a family dynamic.
أفهم موقف العائلة وأعلم أن هنالك أمور كثيرة تدخل في علاقات العائلات.
That being said, as the state, we are asking that the defendant not have contact with any of the victims.
وبناء على ذلك تطلب الولاية أن يكون هنالك أمر بعدم التواصل بين المتهم والضحايا.
And that he not be within the 2600 block of King James Way.
وأن يكون ممنوع عليه أن يكون بالمربع 2600 من King James Way.
The state believes this is the least restrictive means to also make sure the public is protected, since these are Act 3 eligible charges.
نعتقد أن هذه أقل أقل الشروط الممكن التعامل معها، بخصوصا بأن التهم الموجهة له قد ترقى إلى تهم من الدرجة الثالثة، وهذه الشروط تضمن أمن وسلامة المجتمع.
And the defense?
الدفاع.
Thank you, Your Honor. No objection to the signature bond or the no alcohol condition requested by the state.
لا اعتراض للدفاع عن الكفالة الخطية أو شروط عدم تناول المشروبات الروحية.
However, we would ask that instead of a no contact and an address ban, the court order that Mr. Al-GBURI have not direct any threats or acts of violence towards the victims in this case.
ولكن عوضا عن منعه من الذهاب للبيت أو نواحيه وعدم التواصل مع الضحايا، نطلب أن تأمر المحكمة بأن لا يوجه أي أعمال تعنيفية أو تهديدات لأي من الضحايا.
I don't think there's much that I can say to add to what the victims have already said, but there's no criminal history here.
لا أعتقد أن هنالك أي شيء باستطاعتي إن إضافته لما قالته الضحايا اليوم. ليس لدينا هنا أي تاريخ إجرامي.
They said convincingly that this has never happened before and that they believe it won't happen again, especially if Mr. Al-GBURI does not consume alcohol.
وقالوا بوضوح أن هذا الشيء لم يحدث أبدا في السابق، ولا يعتقدون أنه سوف يحدث في المستقبل طالما السيد الجبوري لا يتعاطى المشروبات المسكرة والروحية.
I think it's evident as well that his family would like him to come home, and also from his demeanor in the courtroom that he feels a great deal of shame because of this. All considered, I think a no acts or threats condition would be sufficient to protect the public. Thank you.
أعتقد أنه من الواضح أن عائلته ترغب أن يعود المنزل، وأعتقد من تفاعله في قاعة المحكمة هنا يبدو أنه يشعر بالخزي والعار لما فعله. وأعتقد أن أمر المحكمة بعدم التواصل العنيف مع أفراد عائلته هو أمر ملائم.
Right. Well, I appreciate the statements of the victims.
أنا أشكر الضحايا على ما قالوه.
I think what the victims in the state agree is that Mr. Al-GBURI has a significant alcohol problem.
أعتقد أن الضحايا والولاية متفقين على أن السيد الجبوري لديه مشاكل كبيرة مع الكحول.
I wasn't there. I don't know what happened.
لم أكن هنالك ولا أعرف ماذا حدث.
If I accept the state's version, this was not just a minor incident for somebody who was drunk.
إن قبلت ما تدعيه ما تقوله الولاية، فهذه لم تكن حادثة بسيطة مع شخص سكران.
He was described as acting crazy.
لقد تم وصفه أنه كان يتصرف كالمجنون.
He allegedly struck his wife, causing a cut inside her lip.
وأيضا ضرب زوجته مما أدى إلى جرح شفتها.
He grabbed two individuals by the hair and dragged them downstairs.
وسحب شخصين من شعرهم وجرهم إلى الأسفل.
It's not clear to me, but maybe both of those were juveniles. Certainly one of them was.
ليس من الواضح لدي، ولكن قد يكون الشخصين هذان قُصّر، وعلى الأقل واحد منهم كان من القُصّر.
One juvenile was struck in the face and upper back with an open hand numerous times.
أحد الأطفال تم ضربه على وجهها ورأسها من الخلف بيد عدة مرات.
Allegedly 20 to 30 times that occurred.
كما قيل 20 أو 30 مرة.
One of the children states that they were really afraid of the defendant's aggressive and violent behavior.
أحد الأطفال قالوا أنهم كانوا خائفين جدا من تصرفات المتهم العنيفة والمزعجة.
Another witness describes the defendant grabbing the daughters and striking them.
أحد الشهود قال أيضا أن المتهم أمسك بالأطفال والبنات وضربهم.
Grabbing them by the hair.
أنه سحلهم من شعرهم.
And it caused the greatest pain they've ever felt.
وأن هذا سبب لهم أكثر ألم تعرضوا له بحياتهم.
And one individual said that they could then hear the defendant being physically abusive with the other siblings before he turned his attention to them.
وأحدهم قال أيضا أن المتهم كان يعتدي بشكل كبير على أحد الأخوات قبل أن يدور ليعتدي عليها.
If I were to accept the version of the victims, most of that is made up or overblown.
إذا قبلت بمقولة الضحايا فإن كل ما قلته أو أغلبه هو مفتعل.
It's hard to reconcile those differing statements.
من الصعب علي أن أوافق هاتان المقولتان.
In the context of a DV incident where there's the power and control and the fear that goes along with that.
في حالات أو قضايا الDV عندما يكون هنالك تحكم وسيطرة.
It's concerning that the statements today are the product of power and control and fear.
نحن متحفظين لأن الأحداث التي أدت بنا إلى هنا اليوم هو سببها السيطرة والخوف والتحكم.
It's not uncommon in a DV context that we have people recanting what they allege to law enforcement.
ليس من العادي لقضايا العنف المنزلي أن تتراجع الضحية عما قالته لرجال الشرطة.
Here it appears to be as many as 4 individuals now kind of recanting what they told law enforcement.
يبدو لنا هنا أن هنالك 4 أشخاص يتراجعون عما قالوه لرجال الشرطة.
I unfortunately don't have the ability to make a referral to pretrial services for active alcohol monitoring.
أنا للأسف ليس لدي السلطة القضائية بأن أحول شخص لخدمات إساءة استخدام المشروبات الروحية.
I have real concern until he addresses his alcohol issue that we may have a repeat of what was alleged.
أنا أخشى بشكل كبير إن لم يتغلب على مشاكله مع الكحول أن تتكرر هذه الحادثة مرة أخرى.
For those reasons, I don't think I can approve contact at this time.
لذلك لن أمنحه الطلب بأن يستمر بالتواصل مع الضحايا.
I do think a signature bond is appropriate because there's apparently no prior record, and I'll order that.
سوف أقبل بالكفالة الخطية لأنه ليس لديه أي سجل سابق.
But I will order a no contact, direct or indirect, with his wife or any of his children.
ولكني سوف أصدر أمر من المحكمة بعدم التواصل مع الزوجة أو أحد البنات بشكل مباشر أو غير مباشر.
I think phrasing it that way covers the victims and makes it something that's enforceable for law enforcement.
أعتقد أن هذا يحمي الضحايا ويسمح للشرطة أن تكون لديهم القدرة على تنفيذ هذا الأمر.
But perhaps the state knows if some of the people identified by initials don't meet that criteria, I would order a no contact with them specifically.
ولكن إن كانت الولاية على علم بأي من الأفراد المذكور أسمائهم بالأحرف الأولى، إن كان هذا الأمر مختلف بخصوصهم، فوقتها باستطاعتنا أن نذكر أسمائهم شخصيا لمنع التواصل معهم.
I'll order a ban from the 2600 block of King James Way.
سوف أصدر أمر بمنع المتهم من الذهاب إلى المربع الكامل لعنوان 2600 كينج جيمس واي.
Sir, if you need to get any items from the residents, you'd have to contact the Fitchburg Police Department and go with them to obtain those items.
سيدي، إن كنت تريد أن تحصل على أي شيء من المنزل، عليك التواصل مع شرطة فيتسبرغ وأن يذهبوا معك للبيت لتحضر أغراضك.
Other than that, you can't have any contact with that residents or the victims, even if the victims reach out to you.
وأنت ممنوع من أن تذهب للمنزل بحالك أو أن تتواصل مع أي من الضحايا حتى لو حاولوا أن يتواصلوا معك.
And I'll order that you not possess or consume any alcohol.
وأصدر أمر بمنعك من أن تستحوذ أو تشرب المشروبات الكحولية.
Attorney DeMarco, have you had a chance to see whether the language is missing anybody who would be an appropriate victim?
المحامي ديماركو، هل اطلعتِ لتري إن كان هنالك يجب تعديل أي من الوثائق لتحديد الضحايا بأوامر المحكمة؟
No, I don't believe it is omitting anyone, and the language to me seems appropriate.
لا سيادة القاضي، لا أعتقد أن أمر المحكمة يتغاضى عن ينسى أي من الضحايا. أعتقد أن اللغة ملائمة.
All right, and Mr. Al-GBURI, obviously you can have your attorney file a motion to have the bail conditions reviewed.
سيد الجباري، باستطاعتك أن تطلب من محاميك أن يقدم طلب للمحكمة لمراجعة شروط الكفالة.
And certainly the victims would have a right to have the bail reviewed at the next court date as well.
والضحايا أيضا لديهم الحق أن يطلبوا إعادة مراجعة شروط الكفالة في الجلسة القادمة.
Is there some other address where he could get mail for the time being?
هل هنالك عنوان آخر يمكن استخدامه لإرسال أي أوراق من المحكمة له؟
Yes.
نعم. Yes.
Can you provide that out loud for the interpreter?
ممكن تعطينا العنوان بصوت عالي للمترجم؟
ما أعرفه، بس عائلتي تعرفه، يعني بنتي زوجتي يعرفون العنوان مال أختي.
My wife or my daughters know the address. It's my sister's address.
All right, well, why don't you update the court when you figure that address out?
عليك أن تخبر المحكمة عندما تعرف هذا العنوان بالضبط.
You'll get your next court date in your paperwork here today, and you can also sign up for text message reminders.
سوف نعطيك الوثائق للجلسة القادمة اليوم، وأيضا سوف يكون باستطاعتك أن تسجل رقم الهاتف للحصول على رسائل عبر الهاتف بخصوص مواعيد المحكمة القادمة.
The last thing we should talk about is whether he wants a preliminary hearing in the next 20 days.
الأمر الأخير الذي علينا أن نناقشه هو إن كنت ترغب بجلسة أولية خلال 20 يوم القادمة.
I think we should leave that date intact, Commissioner. Even if he doesn't have an attorney, it may be beneficial for the court date to come up rather quickly.
أعتقد أنه علينا أن نبقي على هذا العنوان سيادة القاضي حتى لو لم يحصل على محامي. أعتقد أن إبقاء هذا التاريخ شيء جيد.
Right, it makes sense, and we'll be adjourned. I wish everybody that your situation improves after here. Okay?
هذا أمر منطقي. انتهت الجلسة. أتمنى أن يتحسن أوضاع الجميع. شكرا. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Al-Ghazi.
Next up is Anthony Peterson.
Okay, but you can't go. I'm sorry, I missed the name.
Peterson Anthony.
Oh, it's coming in?
We'll go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus Anthony Peterson. It's 26 CM 775 appearances.
88 Cecilia DeMarco for the state.
Anthony Peterson appears via Zoom video teleconference from a segregation cell in the jail. I can see that he has been provided with a copy of the criminal complaint. We would go ahead and waive its formal reading and ask the court to enter not guilty pleas to the 2 charges. The address on the criminal complaint is a good mailing address for Mr. Peterson, and he is eligible for a public defender in this case.
I'll make a finding of probable cause, enter not guilty pleas to the charges. State's position on bail.
Thank you. The state is asking the court to set cash bail at $500 in this case, with conditions that the defendant be banned from the State Street in Langdon area per the ban map that's typically given out, and that he not use or possess any alcohol during the pendency of the case. The reason for this, I guess you could call it a relatively high cash bail request, given the charges here, is that the defendant made it less than 3 days after signing a signature bond in an earlier case, saying he would not possess alcohol or be in the State in Langdon ban area, before he was found to be doing both of those things and rearrested, hence the charges here. He also has failures to appear from January of 2025 as well as November of 2024, which would also support a cash bail recommendation.
And defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. We would request a signature bond in this matter. I think it's evident just from reviewing the complaint, including Mr. Peterson's mailing address, which is the Beacon Day Shelter, that he lacks financial resources to post any amount of bail. As ADA DeMarco notes, that the underlying case here is a disorderly conduct, and the new case is, 2 counts for violating the bail in that case. Given the relative lack of severity of the cases, I think a signature bond, and the lack of resources for Mr. Peterson, that a signature bond would be appropriate here. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm concerned we've got a couple of recent missed court dates, and then an alleged violation of very specific conditions of bail. I get the people having alcohol issues, and maybe they can't just stop drinking without some treatment. But certainly the State in Langdon ban was quite clear, and the defendant completely disregarded that. That suggests that some cash is necessary. I'll set $200 cash bail, order that you not possess or consume any alcohol again. Again, a ban from the State Street Langdon area, and we'll be adjourned.
Next up is DAMAURIE KEMP. Kemp? DAMAURIE? Where's the outline?
We'll go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus DAMAURIE KEMP. It's 26 CF 792 appearances.
88 Cecilia DeMarco for the state.
I'm a public defender, but just for this hearing. DAMAURIE KEMP appears in person and in custody. Okay, represented by attorney Will Anderson of the State Public Defender's Office, making a special appearance. He's received a copy of the criminal complaint. Did you want to change it? What address? Right. Madison. Okay, should it be sent care of somebody who lives at that address? So it doesn't stuff. Like care of somebody who lives at that address? So what would a good name be? Sharon, do you know? If I could update Mr. Kemp's mailing address to care of Sharon Cason, Cason, at 1607 Wright Street, WRIGHT, in Madison. I don't happen to have the zip code handy. Perhaps we could look that up.
I'm sure the clerk can check that out.
Before we go any further, Your Honor, I would like to make a motion here to dismiss this charge against Mr. Kemp. The facts here don't make out a retail theft. One of the elements of retail theft is that the person take and carry away merchandise that's held out for sale. The description of the events here is that it was some sort of scheme to put money onto a debit card. I don't think that meets the elemental definition of retail theft, so I would ask that this be dismissed. Thank you.
All right, and then any response from the state?
I mean, I think debit cards that can be loaded with prepaid cash values are an item of value and are merchandise that are held for resale at any store, whether that be Walmart or any other big box convenience type store. So I don't think there's any merit to the motion to dismiss.
All right, well, let me take a closer look at things. Right, any response from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. I mean, the allegation here is that they were essentially placing money onto a rechargeable debit card. I just don't think that it's unclear whether the debit card, they brought it with them or it was in the store, but either way, I don't think it is merchandise that was held out for sale. Thank you.
All right, but I think there's at least a reasonable inference that the debit cards were something they were getting from the store, like you often see in stores where you can add money to a card and put money on that. I guess I'm gonna give the state the benefit of the doubt. They get the benefit of competing reasonable inferences and deny it. If it's correct that these weren't Walmart debit cards, then I think you're probably right that retail theft isn't correct. It's theft by fraud, a more serious charge is actually the appropriate response. What's the state's position on bail?
The state is going to ask that the court set cash bail here at $2,500 with a ban from any Walmart store. And the reason for this request is because at the time of police contact, it was the state's and the police's understanding that the defendant really had no local ties whatsoever. I realize he's just updated his address, but at that time, there was no evidence of any local ties other than the fact that he was eventually located and interviewed where he essentially confessed at the Walworth County Jail. So it appears that he and his co-actor were apparently just in Wisconsin from Indiana for purposes of running this scam. He's also facing charges in Walworth County for the same type of conduct. So I think for that reason, cash bail is supported here.
All right, and defense position?
Thank you, Commissioner. We would be requesting a signature bond in this case. No objection to the ban from the Walmart stores. I would note that Mr. Kemp did just provide a mailing address. That's his aunt's house where he, I believe, will be staying for the foreseeable future as these cases, as there are 2 Wisconsin cases, work their way through the court system. I saw the Walworth County case. I saw that I believe $1,000 was set in that case. Mr. Kemp tells me he was able to post that, but it, stretched his resources to the maximum and he wouldn't be able to post any additional bail here in Dane County. Given that the 2 cases were initiated essentially at the same time, I think that the $1,000 he's posted to secure his release in Walworth County in some ways addresses the potential flight risk in this case. And so I would ask that the court set a signature bond rather than hold Mr. Kemp here in the Dane County Jail. Thank you.
All right. Well, and I neglected to mention it, but the public safety assessment recommends a signature bond. It looks like there's no prior convictions that he has. He has provided a local address. It's a nonviolent property offense, and it may not actually be correctly charged. That'll play out, I think, at a preliminary hearing. I'm going to order a signature bond on a ban from any Walmart locations. What about time limits for the preliminary hearing?
Let's leave them intact, Commissioner, please.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Signature bond, okay? We'll get a lawyer and move forward, right?
Francisco Lopez Roque. Right over there.
Hello.
Superb.
Yeah. All right.
Excellent.
Francisco? Francisco? Yo.
Right, we'll go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus Francisco Lopez Roque. It's 26 CM 774. We also have a bail hearing in 22 CM 1659 appearances.
EDA Cecilia DeMarco on behalf of the state.
Francisco Lopez, what did I say? Roque appears in person in custody, represented for today's purposes by attorney Will Anderson of the State Public Defender's Office. He's received a copy of the criminal complaint. We would waive its formal reading. Ask the court to enter not guilty, please. Just one moment. For mail, where would you like to record them?
¿Dónde quiera usted recibir sus avisos de la corte? En la casa donde me agarraron. The house where they taken.
This is the.
Oh, and I've just received a message from victim witness. They're asking that the interpreter speak into the microphone for the victims on the live stream.
Hay una víctima que está compareciendo en vivo por la transmisión del video, así que se va a interpretar consecutivamente. Estamos aquí con el estado de Wisconsin contra Francisco Javier López Roque, asistido por el abogado del defensor público Will Anderson.
And is the address then on Onsgard Road, correct?
¿Y la dirección que está ahí en Onsgard Road es la dirección correcta?
Sí.
Yes.
Then the address on the 2026 criminal complaint is the correct mailing address for Mr. Lopez Roque, and
Entonces la dirección en la denuncia del 2026 es la dirección correcta del señor López Roque.
And I have a note here that he applied for a public defender and is currently not eligible. Thank you.
Tengo una nota que él solicitó un defensor público, pero que actualmente no califica.
And the deputy's giving you the public defender information. You can always reapply if you're not able to hire an attorney on your own.
Los diputados están entregando un aviso de la agencia del defensor público. Usted siempre puede volver a solicitar un defensor público.
We do have certified Spanish interpreter Fred Svensson interpreting.
Tenemos el intérprete certificado Fred Svensson interpretando.
And I'll swear you for our hearing
Y el-
this afternoon.
Y le vamos a hacer prestar juramento para las audiencias esta tarde.
And do you swear or affirm that you will truly, accurately, completely, and impartially interpret the proceedings?
¿Jura y afirma usted que va a interpretar completamente este proceso? Yes, I do. Sí lo juro.
He's got you.
Right, I'll make a finding of probable cause in the new case, enter not guilty, please.
Voy a hacer una determinación de motivo fundado en los nuevos casos, entrar en el acta una declaración no culpable.
The public safety assessment recommends a signature bond.
Se recomienda una fianza de promesa bajo la evaluación de riesgo a la comunidad.
And then we have a return on warrant after a failure to appear back on February 28th of 2023 in the other case.
Y en el otro caso tenemos una falta de presentarse en el caso cuando tenía audiencia el día 28 de febrero del 2023.
State's position on bail.
Posición del Estado sobre la fianza.
Thank you. So starting with the newer case, I have to disagree with the PSA. I don't think a signature bond is appropriate.
Vamos a empezar con el nuevo caso. No estoy en desacuerdo con la evaluación y no creo que es apropiado una fianza de promesa solamente.
I'm going to ask that the court set $500 cash bail per case.
Quiero pedir que se concierte una fianza de caución en valor de $500 en cada caso.
The defendant shouldn't get points for having no prior failure to appear for a pretrial hearing in the past 2 years because he's been out on warrant status far longer than that.
El acusado no debe recibir ningunos puntos favorables por no tener faltas de presentarse para comparecencias en el tribunal en los últimos 2 años porque ha estado bajo orden de arresto por más de ese tiempo.
Before I go any further, I should also add that in 26 CM 774, the state is asking that the defendant have no contact with Priscilla. That's spelled Priscilla, last initials ZH.
Y quiero indicar también que en el otro caso 26M774, el Estado también está pidiendo una prohibición de tener contacto con Priscilla. Es del letreado PRISCILAZH.
And we're asking he be banned from the 4000 block of Camden, CAMDEN Road.
Y que sea prohibido estar presente en la cuadra 4000 de la Camden Road, CAMDEN.
In 22 CM 1659, the defendant
22 CF,
CM
CM.
1659. The defendant initially received a signature bond at an initial appearance on September 1st of 2022.
El acusado originalmente en el caso 26 CM 1659 recibió una fianza de promesa en su comparecencia inicial el 1 de septiembre del 2022.
He did not appear for a hearing a few months later on December 2nd of 2022, but the state did not object to the non-appearance and ask for a warrant.
El acusado después no se presentó unos meses después, en el 2 de diciembre de 2022, y el Estado no pidió que se aumentara la fianza en esa ocasión.
The matter was then set for a plea and sentencing hearing at the end of February 2023, which is the hearing that the defendant failed to appear for.
Luego se concertó una fianza de su declaración y condenación para febrero del 2023 y el acusado no se presentó.
And he has remained out in warrant status until his arrest in the 26 CM case where he was apprehended for allegations of domestic violence.
Y él ha estado fuera con esta orden de su arresto hasta que fue arrestado, en este caso 26 CM 774, y se alega cargos por abuso doméstico.
Finally, count 2 in the 26 CM case is certainly an Act 3 eligible offense, which further supports the state's recommendation.
Y el cargo número 2 aquí es un cargo bajo la ley número 3, acta 3, que respalda lo que pide el Estado sobre la fianza.
And Attorney Anderson?
Y abogado Anderson.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Gracias, su señoría.
We would request that the court follow the public safety assessment here and give Mr. Lopez Roque a signature bond in both cases.
Quisiéramos pedir que se cumpla con lo que pide la evaluación de seguridad pública, una fianza de promesa.
Looking at the PSA, I would note that even with the step up for the decision-making framework step 4, it still recommends a signature bond.
Y pudiera yo señalar que aunque si se levanta de un nivel sobre la decisión de concretar una fianza, todavía recomendaría una fianza de promesa.
I think the other side of the coin of him not having a failure to appear in the past 2 years is that he presumably hasn't had any police contact in the past 2 years, which I think means that cash bail is not necessary to protect the public in either case.
También se pudiera considerar que como él ha estado libre en la comunidad bajo la orden de su arresto, no ha tenido ningún contacto con la policía, eso se pudiera también sostener la conclusión que una fianza de promesa, una fianza de caución no es necesaria para proteger a la comunidad.
And finally, I would ask that the court not impose the no contact with the alleged victim in the 2026 case or her address, but instead add a condition that Mr. Lopez Roque not direct any threats or violence towards her.
Y finalmente quisiera pedir que la condición de no tener contacto o estar en esa dirección de la víctima, que mejor sería incluir una prohibición de tener amenazas de violencia o actos de violencia contra la víctima.
These are misdemeanor offenses. I'm not aware of any prior domestic cases for Mr. Lopez Roque. There's nothing in the complaint about whether the alleged victim elected to enforce the 72-hour no contact, and we haven't heard from her today.
Estos son delitos menores. No hay ningún antecedente penal que indica que él tiene una historia de casos de abuso doméstico y tampoco tenemos información que la víctima pidió tener una orden prohibiendo contacto y no hemos escuchado a la víctima hoy día.
I do apologize. I just wanted to note 2 other things. One is that Mr. Lopez Roque has been a lifelong resident of Dane County.
También quiero indicar 2 otras cosas, que el señor López Roque ha sido un residente del condado de Dane toda su vida.
And unfortunately, he has not worked in several years, so I do believe that any amount of cash bail would be prohibitive for him.
Y que él no ha trabajado en los varios últimos años y que una fianza de caución sería muy difícil para él.
Thank you.
And if I could just respond, the victim does not want contact with him and she did enforce the 72-hour no contact.
Y si puedo responder con que la víctima ha indicado que no quiere tener contacto con él y pidió que se enforzara la orden prohibiendo contacto por 72 horas.
All right. I don't think the history suggests that cash bail is necessary to protect the public.
No creo que la historia indica que una fianza de caución es necesaria para proteger al público.
I do think it's necessary to assure appearance in court.
Pero sí pienso que es necesario para asegurar su comparecencia en la corte.
He privately retained counsel to assist him in that underlying case and then has been out on a warrant for over 2 years.
Él contrató un abogado en particular en ese otro caso inicial y después estaba bajo una orden de arresto por 2 años.
I'll set $300 cash bail in 22 CM 1659 with the prior non-monetary conditions.
Voy a concretar una fianza de $300 de efectivo en el caso 22 CM 1659 con las previas órdenes no monetarias.
And I'll set $500 in 26 CM 774 with the no contact director and direct with Priscilla ZH.
Y $500 en el caso 26 CM 774 con la condición de no tener contacto con Priscilla CH.
And a ban from the 4000 block of Camden Road.
Y una prohibición de estar en la cuadra 4000 de Camden Road.
Okay. And we will be adjourned.
Y estamos concluidos.
Next up is Hilario Solis Alveraz.
The older one, 500. I didn't hear who's next.
Hilario Solis Alveraz. That last case was the only one that I requested in second. Excellent.
Called the State of Wisconsin versus Hilario Solis Alvarez, 26 CM 777. Appearance.
ADA Cecilia DeMarco for the state.
Hilario Solis Alvarez appears in person and in custody, represented for today's hearing by Attorney Will Anderson of the Public Defender's Office. He's received a copy of the criminal complaint. Waive its formal reading. Ask the court to enter not guilty, please. If I could update Mr. Solis Alvarez's mailing address. to 7804 Park Edge Drive,
7804 Park Edge Drive,
Madison,
Madison.
53719.
No.
6804.
6804.
6804 Park Edge.
So we have 6804.
We're all over the place.
On the booking sheet, we have 6802 Park Edge Drive.
680. It says 68.
So you think it's 6804 Park Edge?
Park Edge Drive.
6804 Park Edge Drive. Yeah.
Okay, so.
And finally, I have a note that he has applied for and is currently not eligible for a public defender in this case. Thank you.
Right, the deputy's handing you the public defender information. If you can't hire an attorney on your own, you can reapply with them, or they can talk to you about applying for a county appointed attorney. We have certified Spanish interpreter Fred Svensson. He's already been sworn for our hearings today. I'll make a finding of probable cause and are not guilty pleas. The public safety assessment recommends cash bail. What's the state's position on bail?
The state agrees that cash bail is appropriate. We're asking that the court set $500 with the conditions that the defendant have no contact with Michael, common spelling, last initial M as in mother, and that he be prohibited from using or possessing any dangerous weapons as defined by the Wisconsin statutes. Not only is this an Act 3 eligible case, given the allegations that the defendant came out of his residence with a metal bat and hit the victim across his knees with it, mafia style. But he also has a terrible failure to appear history. So the following are all from Dane County case number 22 CF 3110. There's a bench warrant issued on January 27th of 2023. That wasn't served until 9 months later on September 5th of the same year. A body-only bench warrant was issued just a few weeks later on September 14th. That one was served the same day. Then finally, a body-only bench warrant was issued last summer, July 29th of 2025, after the defendant failed to appear at adjudication and sentencing. To the extent that the court might have questions about this, the DA's office did not charge any bail jumping since there was no indication that the responding officers were aware that the aforementioned case was still open and pending at the time of their contact.
Great. And Attorney Anderson.
Thank you, Your Honor. We would request a signature bond in this case. No objection to the non-monetary conditions requested by the state. I was frankly kind of surprised to see the PSA as high as it is. Earlier today, I reviewed Dane County case 2023 CF 1631 and saw that Mr. Solis Alvarez appeared for court while out of custody in a much more serious case in November of 2023, February of 2024, and March. He was in custody in March of 2020, May of 2020, excuse me. But at least he was making his appearances in that case. He doesn't have any other open cases right now.
Wrong, sorry.
No, I apologize.
But
It's
he's
this
got
one's
a
buried down here. Okay. I see.
warrant in 22 CF 3110. He'll be held for sentencing. It was
I see.
deferred prosecution.
I see. Interesting. Kind of slipped through some other cases. Okay. I'll let Your Honor make your ruling. Thank you.
I think in light of the failures to appear and the fact that he could be held without bail to be sentenced in 22 CF 3110, since he's already entered a plea, $500 cash bail is certainly appropriate here. I'll order that. Order no contact direct or indirect with Michael M. and that you not use or possess any dangerous weapons as that's defined by the statutes. and we'll be adjourned.
Next up is EDILBERTO
How does he get all his
Bustillo.
court dates without being adjudicated? You never know.
Sorry, I totally just.
That's okay. It was hiding down there in CCAT. And you had mentioned it. Did I get for reviewing?
Call the state of Wisconsin versus Alberto Bustillo Ortiz, 26 CM 779 appearances.
ADA Cecilia DeMarco for the state.
Attorney Will Anderson appears for Alberto Bustillo Ortiz, who appears in person and in custody. He's received a copy of the criminal complaint. We will waive its formal reading and ask the court to enter not guilty, please. It's a good mailing address. Yeah. The address on the criminal complaint is a good mailing address for him moving forwards. And I have a note that he has applied for and is eligible for a public defender in this matter. Thank you.
Great, and we also have certified Spanish interpreter Fred Svensson. We've already sworn him for our hearings. I'll make findings of probable cause. If you're not guilty, please state your position on bail.
Thank you. Sorry, just checking one thing. The state is recommending a signature bond in this case, albeit with some reservations. We're asking that the defendant be ordered to have no contact with Claudia HP, which I believe is already a condition of bail in another pending case. And that he not use or possess any alcohol during the pendency of this matter.
Any objections?
No objections, Commissioner.
Right, I'll order a signature bond. Condition will be a no contact director and director Claudia HP that you not possess or consume any alcohol. Mr. Bustillo Ortiz, you gotta follow these conditions. You don't, you're gonna get arrested again, and they're probably gonna ask for cash bail, okay? We will be adjourned.
Next up is Agustin OCOTL-GARCIA.
We will go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus Agustin OCOTL-GARCIA, 26 CF 801, and then bail bond hearings in 19 CF 2855, 16 CT 153, 17 CT 42 appearances.
ADA Cecilia DeMarco on behalf of the state.
Agustin Garcia appears in person and in custody, represented for today's purposes by Attorney Will Anderson of the Public Defender's Office. He's received a copy of the latest criminal complaint. We would waive its formal reading and ask the court to enter not guilty pleas to the misdemeanors. Excuse me one moment. Where would you like your mail?
My brother lives there. That's a good place for me to receive them.
Okay. We'll leave the mailing address as is on the criminal complaint. And I have a note here that he has applied for and been deemed eligible for a public defender in all of these cases. Thank you.
Great, I'll make a finding of probable cause in the new case, that are not guilty pleas to any misdemeanors. And there's a PSA report that recommends a signature bond, state's position on bail.
Again, I think that, I mean, no disrespect, but the logic there is quite faulty and essentially rewards the defendant for not having any missed court appearances in the past 2 years when he's been out in warrant status for much, much longer than that. So in 26 CF 801, the state is asking the court to set $5,000 cash bail, the condition that the defendant shall not operate any motor vehicle, which I think is appropriate given that this case marks his 4th pending OWI, that he not possess or consume any alcohol, and that the court consider making a, I guess, future pretrial services eligibility finding for a referral when it becomes available. In each of the other cases that are set for bail hearings today, the state is asking that the court set $2,000 in 19 CF 2855 and $1,000 per case in the 17 CT and 16 CT cases. As I've indicated, the defendant's history of appearing for court is simply terrible. And under the bail statute, the amount of times he perhaps has made his court dates is not a factor for the court to consider. What the court can consider is how many times he's missed court, and the answer to that is a lot. In 16 CT 153, he failed to appear for a sentencing hearing in September of 2016. It's nearly 10 years ago now, which is terrifying. He also failed to appear for a hearing in mid-December of 2016. And he failed to appear for a hearing in January of 2020 in all 3 cases, which is the last time that the courthouse has really seen him. Since he's remained in warrant status since then until picking up yet another felony OWI. It's my understanding that in the 26 CF case, the defendant was not truthful about his identity. He PBT'd at the jail at a 0.18. He already has at least 1 case with bail conditions prohibiting the possession or consumption of alcohol, as well as the operation of any motor vehicle. I think, given the circumstances, it's quite clear that the defendant is a danger to not only himself, but others when he drinks and drives. And I don't think that any less than what the state's asking for is reasonable, given the circumstances.
Great. And Attorney Anderson.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, I agree that cash bail is appropriate in these cases. If my notes are correct, Mr. OCOTL-GARCIA was on $500 cash bail in each of the 3 cases when he went into warrant status, and that amount was forfeited. I do think the amount of cash requested by the state would be far beyond Mr. OCOTL-GARCIA's means. He is eligible for a public defender. So I would ask that the court impose $500 cash bail in the 3 older cases and no more than $1,000 in the most recent case. I think the no alcohol and no driving conditions are appropriate under the circumstances, as would the referral to pretrial services, if that's something that the court is able to do, given the restrictions on that program. Thank you.
All right. Well, in 16 CT 153, he actually posted $1,000, didn't show up in court, then somehow got only a $500 cash bail, didn't show up in court again, and has been out on a warrant for years. I thought, and perhaps in one of these cases, he may have actually entered a plea. Yeah, 16 CT 153. he entered a plea. Therefore, I'm just revoking bail in that particular case, given the history, so he will be sitting until he has sentencing with court. I'll order the prior non-monetary conditions aren't really all that relevant, since I'm revoking bail. In 17 CT 42, he's shown that $1,000 is insufficient. I'll set $1,000 there. I think that was the request of the state, and the prior non-monetary conditions will remain. In 19 CF 2855, I think the request for $2,000 is certainly appropriate. And I'll order the prior non-monetary conditions there. In 26 CF 801, I think a lesser amount than $5,000 is appropriate to assure appearance. Obviously, all these amounts are going to add up pretty quickly to well beyond what he's ever been asked to post before. And I don't get to set cash bail in any of these cases to protect the public, unfortunately. I'll set $3,500 cash bail in 26 CF 801. Order that he not operate a motor vehicle and that he not possess or consume any alcohol. He's been on pretrial services before. He was actually at the time of this. It hasn't really shown to be useful. It is a limited resource, as we learn. They can't even take referrals. Since he's going to be sitting in custody until his next hearing, I guess I declined to order it at this particular time, but it can be revisited depending on when he's sentenced, whether they've actually got availability to monitor him. Should we just get a timely prelim in the new case set?
I think that would be, yes, Commissioner, please.
Okay, we will do that, and we are adjourned.
Next up is Gabriel Stewart. Back.
See Fred.
Thanks, Fred.
Yeah. Well, I took some pictures of my doll and my car.
I'm going tomorrow.
I got to call it.
All right.
I might
I'm
do
so
that.
happy. You've made my day. Team Chile is open.
What time?
Team Chile, the Nepalese restaurant. that
Oh, okay.
closed, and now they've reopened it with a slightly different name.
Nice.
Fred and I were both a little skeptical, but the reviews are coming back.
Wait, what kind of restaurant? What kind of restaurant is it? Oh, like from Nepal. Oh, that sounds good.
All right, so we've got Mr. Stewart.
Yeah.
Gabriel Stewart. We'll go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus Gabriel Stewart. It's 26 CF 802 appearances.
ADA Cecilia DeMarco for the state.
Gabriel Stewart appears in person and in custody, represented for today's purposes by Attorney Will Anderson of the Public Defender's Office. Has received a copy of the criminal complaint, would waive its formal reading. The address on the criminal complaint is a good address, 130 Flint Street for mail. And I have a note here that he has applied for and is eligible for a public defender in this matter. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll make a finding of probable cause. They're all felony matters. We won't enter any pleas. The public safety assessment recommends a signature bond. State's position on bail.
The state has to disagree and is asking the court to set $1,000 cash bail with the condition that the defendant shall not operate any motor vehicle. So the defendant was already afforded the privilege of a signature bond in pending case 26 CF 95, and then is alleged to have, in this matter, fled from an attempted stop by a uniformed officer who had lights and sirens illuminated. He apparently disregarded a stop sign and a red light during that flight, which does endanger other drivers on the road. And I think especially for someone who was already out in the community on a signature bond, does not bode well whatsoever. This is certainly a situation that could have gone a lot worse. I'm thankful for all parties involved that it didn't, but it certainly warrants a cash bail analysis given the flight related behavior. So I'll ask that the court adopt the state's recommendation.
Attorney Anderson.
Thank you, Commissioner. I would ask Your Honor to go along with what the public safety assessment recommends here, which is a signature bond. I think it does recommend pretrial supervision. I'm not quite sure why. I don't think that's appropriate, especially given the limitations. In terms of conditions, I think the idea that he not operate a motor vehicle while out on signature bond makes sense. But we would ask for that signature bond today. Thank you.
All right, and the public safety assessment references a prior failure to appear older than 2 years. Mr. Rogers, do you have that failure to appear date for Mr. Stewart? Then you're muted, Mr. Rogers.
I also have it if the court needs it.
Oh, if you've got it, go ahead.
Looks like a bench warrant was issued in Dane County case number 21 CM 2108 on March 29th of 2022 and was served 1 month later.
All right, thank you. And Attorney Anderson, if you want to respond, go ahead.
Just briefly, Your Honor, I do have a note here that he has been making it to his court appearances in the current open felony matter while out of custody. So I think that goes in his favor when it comes to likelihood to appear in court in this matter. Thank you.
All right. It may have been a cash bail case if you weren't out on bail and didn't have any priors, given what's alleged. That is extremely concerning behavior. To me, it's not consistent with somebody who's going to voluntarily show up. That said, Attorney Anderson's correct. It looks like you've been making your court dates in the underlying case. I give you credit for that, but I don't see it as a signature bond situation. I'll set cash bail in the amount of $750. I do think simply ordering you not to operate a motor vehicle is appropriate if this is the response when law enforcement tries to pull you over. It's dangerous for you and dangerous for everybody else. What about time limits for the preliminary hearing?
We'll leave those intact, please, Commissioner.
Okay, we are adjourned.
All right, Swift. Next up is Edward Green. Green. Right over there on that dark yellow line.
Go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus Edward Green. It's 26 CF 795 appearances.
ADA Cecilia DeMarco for the state.
Edward Green appears in person and in custody, represented by Attorney Will Anderson of the Public Defender's Office. Has received a copy of the criminal complaint, would waive its formal reading, ask the court to enter not guilty pleas, and it would appear that the address on the criminal complaint is a good address for him moving forwards for mail.
No, that's a condo.
Oh, no apartment number?
No, it's just a unit number.
Okay, but it should have number 3.
Number 3, sorry.
Okay, so if we could do 7102 Flagship Drive, number 3 in Madison 53719. And I have a note that he's applied for and is eligible for a public defender in this case. Thank you.
I'll make findings of probable cause, enter not guilty pleas, state's position on bail.
I think it's somewhat of a close call here, especially given the felony and obstructing charge, but I'm willing to give the defendant a chance with a signature bond, and I'll make that recommendation with the conditions that the defendant not have contact with Lauren, common spelling, or Robert, common spelling, last initials both L.
Okay, any issues with that?
No, man, no, sir.
Oh, I got you. I think that makes sense. No
Yes.
objection, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll go along with that. I agree, it's a bit of a close call given some of the behavior, but I'm gonna go along with a signature bond. You can't have any contact with Lauren or Robert L. And you do have the right to a preliminary hearing in the next 20 days.
Okay, yes.
Do you want that to come up in the next 20 days?
Yes, sir.
Let's
Okay.
keep that in.
If that's scheduled, we'll be adjourned.
Yep, thank you. You're good.
No.
In tax base.
Forces.
I'm sorry, I'm making everybody's life difficult.
Having printer issues.
Well, making Mr. Green's life difficult. This is an assessment of merits.
All right, we'll go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus Jasmine Harms. It's 26 CF 796 appearances.
ADA Cecilia DeMarco on behalf of the state.
Jasmine Harms appears in person and in custody, represented for today's hearing by Attorney Will Anderson of the Public Defender's Office. She's received a copy of the criminal complaint, would waive its formal reading, ask the court to enter a not guilty plea to count 1. Do you want your mail to go to High Ridge or to Moore Street? Okay. A good mailing address for Ms. Harms moving forwards is 2462 High Ridge Trail in Fitchburg, 53713. And I have a note that she has applied for and is eligible for a public defender in this matter. Thank you.
Great, I'll make findings of probable cause, enter not guilty pleas to the misdemeanors. There is a PSA report that recommends a signature bond, state's position on bail.
I actually think that's appropriate. I'm going to echo that recommendation. I'll ask that the defendant have no contact with Madison police officer Isaac, last initial A as in Apple, unless required by the course of his official law enforcement duties otherwise. I don't see any failure to appear really much of or any history pertaining to the defendant and the criminal justice system. So I think signature bond under the circumstances is appropriate.
I agree, Your Honor, no objection.
Okay, I'm willing to go along with that. The behavior is a little bit concerning, but with a complete lack of prior record and no failures to appear, I think a signature bond is appropriate in order that you not have any contact, direct or indirect, with Madison Police Officer Isaac A, except as necessary in their duties as a law enforcement officer. What about time limits?
I'm gonna ask that your next court date be pushed out, otherwise it'll come up within a month and you probably turning back. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah.
Sure. In this case, I think we could waive the time limits and set for a prelim status, Your Honor.
Okay, sounds good. We are adjourned.
Right, this way. Next up is Angela Cepeda.
Angela, we work now.
Go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus Angela Cepeda. That's case numbers 25 CF 838 and 25 CF 840 appearances.
ADA Cecilia DeMarco for the state.
Angela Cepeda appears in person and in custody, represented for today's hearing by Attorney Will Anderson of the Public Defender's Office. She's received a copy of the criminal complaint and would waive the criminal complaints and would waive their formal reading. Just one moment. So do you want court mail to go to Juliet or do you have an address? Okay, do you know what the address is? Right. Okay. If we could please update Ms. Zepeda's address in both cases to 113 East Washington Avenue, apartment 8 in Madison. I believe that'd be 53704. And I have a note here that she has applied for and is eligible for a public defender in both cases. Thank you.
Great. These cases went out on complaint and warrants. Probable cause has been found. There's a public safety assessment. It recommends a signature bond. What's the state's position on bail?
I have to disagree with that. I'm going to ask that the court set cash bail in each of these matters at $10,000 per case with the conditions that the defendant shall not possess any financial cards or instruments not issued lawfully in her own name. In 25 CF 838, we're asking that she be banned from any one community bank location and have no contact with Rebecca, common spelling, last initial B as in boy, or Chelsea, last initial R. In 25 CF 840, we're asking that she be banned from any associated bank location and have no contact again with Rebecca, last initial B as in boy, Adam, common spelling, last initial F, or Erica, common spelling, last initial F. The reason for this recommendation, which I realize is a deviation from the public safety assessment, is that to the state's knowledge, the defendant really doesn't have any ties to Dane County other than allegedly committing fraud. She currently has open cases in 7 counties in other states, and there's apparently evidence that the charging ADA was privy to that she had committed crimes similar to these charged offenses here in Dane County in another dozen or so jurisdictions across 4 different Midwest states, here, Illinois, Michigan, Missouri, allegedly. Her last known convictions that we're aware of are from about 5 years ago, but they do include obstructing and bribery, which doesn't bode well. And there's apparently an indication that she had a preliminary hearing in Stevenson, Stephenson County, Illinois, back in February of 2025. She failed to appear for that hearing, and her whereabouts as of March 2025, when Stevenson County tried to figure out where she was, were unknown to them until she popped up here and caught these charges. I don't think that this is a situation where a signature bond is appropriate. I can understand that rationale otherwise in cases of a similar nature, that being nonviolent financial crimes. But I do think, although these are not Act 3 eligible offenses, I would be remiss not to mention how much of an impact this behavior has on people's lives. When people are the victims of financial crimes such as fraud, they typically have to upend their entire existence, getting new documents, getting new documentation to prove they are who they say they are. That involves a significant amount of time and resources and emotional effort. And these are not victimless crimes. They may be nonviolent, but they are not victimless. So I do think that cash bail is warranted in these cases. I'll ask that you set them as the state has indicated. I'll just mention one last thing before I wrap up here is that the defendant did have to be extradited back to Dane County for both of these matters. I have notes saying that there were extraditions in both October of 2025 as well as March of this year, both from different jurisdictions in Illinois.
And Attorney Anderson?
Could I have just a moment to speak to Ms. Sepeda off the record, Your Honor?
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner. We would be asking that the court issue signature bonds in these cases. That's consistent with the public safety assessment. I do have, well, let me start with the public safety assessment. I note that the public safety assessment doesn't note any failures to appear. That I understand ADA DeMarco just mentioned one from Illinois. The public safety assessment doesn't note any. It does, however, note that she has prior felony convictions and prior sentences to incarceration, which would lead me to believe that she comes to court, even when facing consequences. And the extradition, she was extradited from Illinois, but she waived extradition to come up here and resolve these cases. That's her plan. She is up here with her family. She's staying with her cousin, and the two young children are with her cousin as well at that address here in Madison. So she does have ties, strong ties at this point to the Dane County community. Beyond that, I would just say that well, a couple more things. The date of offense here is over a year in the past, and from my understanding from just talking to Ms. Sepeda now is that she did resolve some of the cases that ADA DeMarco mentioned for extensive probation. I believe that she will be transferring from Illinois to Wisconsin and the interstate compact for probation and parole. So she does appear in many respects to have kind of turned a corner from whatever was happening back in late 2024 when these alleged offenses occurred. She's taking responsibility by pleading and being sentenced to probation in Illinois, waiving extradition to come up here. She's moved her family up here. She has ties to the community. She tends to show up for court according to the public safety assessment, which does recommend a signature bond. These are not Act 3 eligible offenses. So given all of that, I would ask that the court give signature bonds. Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess I'll respond to the point in regards to the failures to appear. And Mr. Rogers can unmute and pipe in. I think one of the limitations of the public safety assessment is not every state has a CCAP system that you can look and see the failures to appear. The information from Attorney DeMarco was that she failed to appear in Stevenson County, Illinois, I think it was, within the last 2 or 3 years. I don't think that means that the public safety assessment disagrees with that necessarily. She's got a history in multiple other states, I guess 4 other states and 7 different counties in the last couple of years with this type of offense. I don't get to set cash bail to protect the victims. I don't get to set cash bail to punish Ms. Sepeda. I don't dispute that these are awful, horrible crimes if you're a victim and they just turn your life upside down. What I do need to do is address whether cash bail is necessary to assure appearance in court. I'm satisfied fairly significant cash bail is given the history. I'm going to set it at $5,000 in each case. In 25 CF 838, I will order a ban from One Community Bank. No contact, director and direct with Rebecca B and Chelsea R. In both cases, I'll order that you not use or possess any financial cards, instruments, or documents that are not lawfully in your own name. And 25 CF 840 will order a ban from associated bank locations. Again, no contact with Rebecca B, Adam F, and Erica F. But we can get these scheduled for timely preliminary hearings if you want.
I think so, please,
All
Commissioner.
right, we will do that, and we are adjourned.
This way.
So your next court hearing will come up soon, and you can get this reviewed.
Next is Jordan, you're.
The other half of my Walmart.
Pyramid. Big word yellow out front.
We'll go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus Jordan Dearman. It's 26 CF 791 appearances.
ADA Cecilia DeMarco on behalf of the state.
Jordan Dearman appears in person and in custody, represented for today's hearing by Attorney Will Anderson of the Public Defender's Office, received a copy of the criminal complaint, would waive its formal reading. The address on the complaint, is that where your court mail should go, to Indiana?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got other family here too though, but I don't know their address calling them out.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. The address on the criminal complaint, which is in Indianapolis, Indiana, is a good mailing address for the time being. And I have a note here that he has applied for and is eligible for a public defender in this case. Thank you.
Right, I'll make a finding of probable cause. And there's a public safety assessment. Recommends a signature bond, state's position on bail.
Well, this is a little tricky because I think for consistency's sake, the court is likely to set cash bail, or set bail rather identical to the co-defendant who, as we know, received a signature bond. I do think there are a few differentiating factors here, specifically that the defendant doesn't have really any local ties that I'm aware of, did not update the address to one that also reflects local ties, but I don't think that that's going to be the tipping point for the court. So I guess for form's sake, I'll make a recommendation for $2,500 in a ban from Walmart to remain consistent with the co-defendant, realizing that the court is likely to mirror it to what Mr. Kemp received.
And Attorney Anderson.
I just have a brief word with Mr. Dearman off the record, and I'll be right back.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just wanted to get a little bit more information about Mr. Dearman's ties to the community here. He does have a cousin in Madison who has invited him to stay as this case is pending in the court system. Although he tells me, and I believe it's reflected in the criminal complaint as well, that his partner is pregnant and has a fairly serious medical condition. So he likely will be going back to Indiana, but I don't think that means won't be accountable to the court system. Just looking at the public safety assessment, I don't see any failures to appear. It recommends a signature bond. He does have family in the area, and so we would request that the court issue a signature bond with the non-monetary conditions as requested by the state. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think there is a little bit of a difference between Mr. Dearman and the co-defendant, but again, not enough to treat them differently. I don't think, and the PSA recommends a signature bond order, a ban from all Walmart locations. I don't remember, did we set up prelim timely on the co-defendant? Should we just get this set as well?
Let me just check with Mr. Dearman on that. So your next question is normally come up 20 visits. We can push it out a little bit, give you time. Yes, we'd leave the timely prelim then, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, we will do that and we are adjourned.
Good luck, okay? Signature, you'll be able to get out today, all right?
All right. Wait for the last one.
Next up is Mark Neville for bail bond.
Oh. Those are nice.
Neville?
On the record in the state of Wisconsin versus Mark Neville, it's 25 CF 2688 appearances.
ADA Cecilia DeMarco for the state.
Mark Nebel appears in person and in custody, represented for today's hearing by Attorney Will Anderson of the Public Defender's Office. It's received.
Yeah, we're actually just here because he didn't show up on March 16th of this year for court and a warrant was issued. We were using the job center. Is that still the correct place for mail?
Yeah.
All right, and then you don't believe you had an attorney at the time. Do you know, is he eligible for a lawyer?
Thank you for asking, Commissioner. Yes, he has applied for and been deemed eligible for a public defender.
All right, and any information he wants to provide about why he didn't show up in court?
Let me have a brief conversation with him off the record if I could.
Sure.
Yes, Commissioner. So what Mr. Neville tells me is essentially he had his dates mixed up. He thought that his court date was in April and not March. He is homeless and has a little difficulty keeping track of the paperwork that comes in from the court. So I don't believe that there are any new charges associated with the police contact that ended up in the bench warrant being served. And it has not been, the warrant has not been out for that long, so I would ask that the court consider reinstating the bond as it was prior to the warrant. Thank you.
All right, and what's the state's position?
I'm actually not opposed to that. I think this should probably be his last chance, but I'm willing to echo that and give him one all the same. His failures to appear in previous instances look relatively dated, and he was only out in warrant status for about a month. So give him one more shot with the signature bond.
Okay, well, I'll go along with that, Mr. Neville. It probably is the last opportunity to just get a signature bond if you don't show up in court. And a couple things you can do. You can sign up for text message reminders here today. If you've got a working cell phone, you can always come to the courthouse and, you know, look up your court case on the kiosk, or go to a library and look it up on CCAP, or contact the public defender's office. You got to make your court dates, otherwise we're probably talking cash bail. But we'll reinstate the signature bond. I think it was scheduled for a status conference. Do you want another status conference, or you want a prelim?
I think another status conference is fine, Commissioner.
Okay.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.
Yeah, good.
So it's Dane, TAPIA-CARRILLO.
He said the ABERT. I think that's what we already had on file.
Yeah. Dane, it works LX. Yeah, two different papers there.
Sorry, who do we have?
Danny.
All right, we'll go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus Dane TAPIA-CARRILLO. That's 26 CF 797 and 26 CM 375 appearances.
ADA Cecilia DeMarco for the state.
Dane TAPIA-CARRILLO appears in person and in custody, represented for today's hearing by Attorney Will Anderson of the Public Defender's Office. He's received a copy of the, I'm sorry, these are both new criminal complaints, correct?
Correct.
Okay, he's received a copy of both criminal complaints. We would waive their formal reading and ask that the court enter not guilty pleas to the misdemeanors. The address on the criminal complaints is a good mailing address for him moving forwards. I have a note that he is applied for and is currently not eligible for a public defender in these matters. Thank you.
All right, so Mr. Tapia, the bailiff's giving you the public defender information. If you're not able to hire an attorney after today, you can contact them, you can reapply, or you could apply for a county attorney and they can help you with that, or point you in the right direction anyways for that. We'll make findings of probable cause, enter not guilty pleas to the misdemeanors. The public safety assessment recommends cash bail. What's the state's position on bail?
Thank you. So beginning with 26 CM at 375, the state's recommending $250 cash in that case, with conditions that the defendant not use or possess any dangerous weapons as defined by the Wisconsin statutes, or any alcohol. In 26 CF 797, the state is asking the court to set an additional $2,000 cash bail, with conditions that the defendant have no contact with co-defendant Julius Booth, JULIUS, last name BOOTH. No contact with, I'm probably going to butcher this, CYAR, CYAR, last initial J as in John. Banned from the 4700 block of JAJUAN, I think that's spelled JENEWEIN Road, and also no weapons. I think the felony matter more or less speaks for itself. It's an Act 3 eligible offense. It's alleged the defendant participated in it with use of a firearm. This certainly merits some amount of cash bail. I think the other case would have been a close call had it been a standalone initial appearance, but for consistency's sake, a minimal amount of cash is likely appropriate in the misdemeanor matter as well.
And Attorney Anderson?
Thank you, Commissioner. Looking at the public safety assessment and the allegations in the criminal complaint, I understand that the reason we're looking at cash bail in the public safety assessment is because of the Act 3 nature of the armed robbery. And it looks like there are no failures to appear noted on the public safety assessment. The other case is misdemeanor offenses. He is charged as party to a crime to the armed robbery. So I would ask that the court consider $1,000 cash bail in that case and a signature bond in the misdemeanor case. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think the major concern I have is protection of the public. In 25 CM 2603, he's actually entered a plea to counts 1 and 2. They withheld adjudication. Counts 1 and 2 are a theft and a carrying concealed weapon charge. They dismissed the possessed dangerous weapon by a person under 18. So he could actually just be held without bail in that particular case. But I think the nature of the crime involving weapons, and then he entered a plea and was out on bail, is concerning. And then we've got 26 CM 375, where he's allegedly carrying a concealed weapon. I don't recall if that was the case or it was in the armed robbery case where they reported having contact with him, and it was in reference to a shooting, and he's in possession of a weapon. Then we've got the armed robbery case, which obviously is an extremely violent charge involving a weapon. Again, he's allegedly carrying a concealed weapon. There's just too much stuff going on with weapons and in disregard of the bail conditions with respect to that sort of stuff. It's quite frankly dangerous for Mr. TAPIA-CARRILLO as a young man running around with a weapon. It's dangerous for everybody else, especially now that he seems to be aggravating or increasing the serious and dangerous behavior. I think the state's request is pretty much on point when we're talking about Act 3, so I'll adopt that in its entirety. In 26 CF 797, I'll set $2,000 cash bail, order a no contact direct and direct with Julius Booth and CYAR J, a band from the 4700 block of JAJUAN Road. And then in 26 CM 375, $250 cash bail, order that you not use or possess dangerous weapons, as that term is defined by the state statutes, and that you not possess or consume any alcohol. And maybe I overlooked the request in the felony, but I believe that the no dangerous weapons is also appropriate in the felony, even if the state wasn't asking for it as I look at it. As to time limits for a preliminary hearing.
Probably want your next court date to come up as soon as possible. Right? Yeah, let's leave those time limits intact, please, Commissioner.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Right, swear. Next up is Rochelle swearing. Good work, Ella.
On the record in the state of Wisconsin versus Michelle Swearingen, it's 26 CM 521 appearances.
EDA Cecilia DeMarco for the state.
Rochelle Swearingen appears in person and in custody, represented for today's hearing by attorney Will Anderson of the Public Defender's Office. She's received a copy of the criminal complaint, will waive its formal reading, and ask the court to enter a not guilty plea to the sole charge. You want your mail to go to Job Center instead of to East Washington?
Yeah, Job Center.
If we could please update Ms. Swearingen's mailing address to the Dane County Job Center at 1819 Aberg Avenue in Madison. And I have a note that she has applied for and is eligible for a public defender in this matter. Thank you.
Right, so a warrant went out after a failure to appear on April 2nd of this year after having posted $150 cash bail. That means probable cause was already found for the charge. We'll get a not guilty plea entered. State's position on bail.
I think given that failure to appear, minimal cash bail is likely appropriate. I think $200 will probably be sufficient. I would ask that the court set non-monetary conditions, that the defendant have no contact with the victim whose initials are DDB, and that she not be at any place that he occupies, nor possess any dangerous weapons or use them as defined by the Wisconsin statutes.
And just to clarify, that was DDB.
Yes.
D as in dog and then B as in boy is the last initial.
Correct.
All right. And Attorney Anderson?
Could I have a brief moment to speak to Ms. Swearingen off the record, Your Honor?
Sure.
Well, they told me to try to get a job, that's why I didn't. Basically, the first thing I came to the local to it's like false information, false imprisonment and stuff like that. That's why I didn't understand why. You know, they run me for it, they run me back and forth. Well, it's not that I was misled, but it was that, that's why I was misled, because we decided to believe in something very bad instead of the good side, so it was
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll be asking that the court issue a signature bond in this case. My brief conversation with Ms. Swearingen, it seems like she was, I guess, confused as to the circumstances under which she was initially released from custody. She thought that the case had been dismissed, and evidently somebody had posted that $150 of bond on her behalf. And so I guess she was unaware of the court date that she missed on April 2nd. The warrant was only out there for a few days before it was served. She is eligible for a public defender. Ultimately, we're talking about a disorderly conduct, albeit by use of a dangerous weapon. She does not object to the non-monetary conditions, that she not have contact with the alleged victim in this case or be in any place where he is. So think that the signature bond with those conditions would be sufficient to accomplish the goals of the bail statute. Thank you.
All right. So it looks like, according to the bond, she's the one who posted the cash, and obviously she signed her bond regardless.
Sure. Which
Gave her that court date and indicated it was a mandatory court appearance. Guess what concerns me is in 23 CF 1609, it looks like she failed to appear on August 16th of 24, July 25th of 24, January 2nd of 24, and August 8th of 2023. So we've got somebody with a pretty extensive failure to appear history.
They keep taking me there.
So I'm gonna set $200 cash bail. It certainly could be higher given that history, but I'm not gonna go below that. I'll order that you not use or possess any dangerous weapons, that you have no contact, direct or indirect, with DDB, and that you not be in any place DDB occupies. Yeah, I had ordered that, and then you had a question. I think the bail had already been ordered forfeited, so she'll have to post an additional $200. We are adjourned.
All right, next up is TYREE BROCK-TOLBERT.
Okay, you can have to have that reduced. Okay, $200 is the bail amount. All right.
All right, swear.
Unfortunately, that's the end of the hearing, Sarge. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know. I just, yeah, I didn't, yeah. They said the mom shot.
Brock. Edward Tillwell.
Go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus TYREE Brock-TOLBERT. It's 26 CM 209 and 26 CF 793 appearances.
ADA Cecilia DeMarco on behalf of the state.
TYREE Brock-TOLBERT appears in person and in custody, represented for today's hearing by Attorney Will Anderson of the Public Defender's Office. Has received a copy of criminal complaints, would waive their formal reading, ask the court to enter not guilty pleas to the misdemeanors in the newest case, and the address on Wright Street is the correct address moving forwards. And I have a note here that Mr. Brock-TOLBERT has applied for and been deemed eligible for a public defender in these cases. Thank you.
Okay, I'll make findings of probable cause, enter not guilty pleas to the misdemeanors. There's a public safety assessment. I recommend this cash bail, state's position on bail.
Thank you. So in 26 CM 209, the state is recommending $200 cash bail with the condition that the defendant have no contact with Stephanie, common spelling, last initial H as in house. In 26 CF 793, the state is recommending the court set an additional $1,500 cash bail with the condition that the defendant have no contact with Stephanie, also common spelling, but last initial L as in lake. The defendant has previously posted what looks to be a total amount of $2,000 cash bail in other cases. I'm also seeing a failure to appear from late October of 2024. So I do think the state's recommendation under the circumstances of each case is reasonable.
And Attorney Anderson.
If I could just have one moment to speak to Mr. Brock-TOLBERT off the record, Your Honor. So. Let's see. I would suggest this. Thank you, Commissioner. So, Mr. Brock-TOLBERT, we would be requesting signature bonds in both of these matters with the non-monetary conditions as suggested by the state. Frankly, Mr. Brock-TOLBERT just lacks the ability to post the amount of cash bail that's requested by the state here. He does have sole responsibility for his 3 small children, and they've been essentially without him for the past several days as he's been in custody. And if cash bail is imposed here, they will continue to be without him, and I understand that they're unable to get to school while he's in jail. So he has strong ties to the community here, having lived in Dane County for 20 years, having his family here. I didn't have enough time to dig into his appearance history in detail. He says that at least recently he's been good about coming to court. The only time he missed court in recent past was when he was in the hospital with a broken rib. And so for all of those reasons, Your Honor, I would ask that the court consider signature bonds in these cases. Thank you.
All right, and Mr. Rogers, perhaps you have the failures to appear. There was one referenced in 2024 by the state, but the PSA suggests that there's something older than 2 years as well.
I had COVID. That's the only time I didn't come in. Okay. And I just had a disrupting conduct, but they mailed it.
And Mr. Rogers, you're muted. If you're able to unmute and let us know about the failures to appear that you have in the PSA for TYREE Brock-TOLBERT, that would be helpful.
Commissioner, in that absence, I did find one missed appearance. It was a missed initial appearance in 24 CP 689. That was on October 28th, 2024. It looks like he appeared 3 days later.
Yeah.
All right. It looks like
all cases.
Yeah, it looks like maybe in 21 CF 1762, a failure to appear on August 23rd of 2021 after posting $500 cash bail.
That's what I see on my end as well.
20. All right. Anything else from either council?
Not to belabor the point, excuse me, I'll just highlight in the 26 CF matter, those are concerning allegations and are certainly eligible for an Act 3 analysis that tips the scale in favor of cash bail in this matter, or both of these matters, I guess.
Just give me a second.
Do you plan to go back to this Wright Street address? That's my house. Okay, what about the other people?
Who people that that's me and Jackie and my kids. I lived there for over 10 years. I'm not one. I just want to be able to get out the how much responsibility I got for my kids also. I guess I have to serve time.
All right. Well, there is pretty extensive prior violent history. The PSA references 3 or more prior violent convictions. He's charged as a repeater with a prior possession of firearm conviction. The charges in 26 CF 793, at least counts 1, 2, and 3 are all Act 3 eligible offenses, extremely violent offenses. I think there's a pretty good Act 3 argument for some cash bail at this point. When I come to that conclusion, I think the $1,500 is appropriate in 26 CF 793. I'll order that. Order a no contact director and direct to Stephanie L. In 26 CM 209, taking into account the cash I've set in the felony and that case not being Act 3, I'm willing to set $150 cash bail and a no contact director and direct to Stephanie H. in that case. What about time limits for a preliminary hearing?
I'm sorry, I missed the bail number in the felony.
$1,500.
So you want your.
So you can have a prelim in the next 10 days if he wants.
2 weeks. Let's leave them timely. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, you're welcome. We are adjourned.
That was 200 in the misdemeanor?
That's 100, but it's
150, thank you.
Next up is Anthony Price.
Price?
We'll go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus Anthony Price. It's 26 CM 776 appearances.
EDA Cecilia DeMarco for the state.
And Anthony Price appears in person and in custody, represented for today's hearing by Attorney Will Anderson of the Public Defender's Office. He's received a copy of the criminal complaint, would waive its formal reading, ask the court to enter not guilty pleas. Is that a good address for mail, Braxton Place?
Yes, sir.
The address on the criminal complaint is a good mailing address for him moving forwards, and I have a note that he spoke to the Public Defender's Office and is currently not eligible for a public defender in this matter. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Price, you can hire an attorney on your own if you're able to. If not, the bailiff's giving you the public defender info. You can always have them run the numbers again and reapply. You could apply for a county appointed attorney. That would be the middle option, and they could probably point you in the right direction for that, okay?
Yes.
All right, I'll make a finding of probable cause for the charges. Get not guilty pleas entered. State's position on bail.
The state's willing to recommend a signature bond here. As the sole condition, we'll just ask that the defendant have the sole few conditions, excuse me, the defendant have no contact with Nathan, common spelling, last initial G, and that he not be at the Motel 6, which is located within the 4200 block of Easttown Boulevard.
Okay, any issue with that?
No objection, Commissioner.
All right, so we'll order a signature bond. Condition will be a no contact director and direct with Nathan G and a ban from the Motel 6 in the 4200 block of Easttown Boulevard, and we'll be adjourned.
All right.
Yep, you're welcome. So next up is Nielsen.
Nielsen. Edward Keller.
Go on the record in the state of Wisconsin versus Matthew Nielsen, 26 CM 780 appearances.
EDA Cecilia DeMarco for the state.
Matthew Nielsen appears in person and in custody, represented specially by Attorney Will Anderson of the Public Defender's Office. He received a copy of the criminal complaint, and we would waive its formal reading, ask the court to enter a not guilty plea. the address on the criminal complaint is a good address for him to live for. Thank you. Oh, he's currently applied for and is eligible for a public defender. Thank you.
I'll make a finding of probable cause, get a not guilty plea entered to the charge, state's position on bail.
The state is asking that the court set $150 cash bail in this case with conditions not to consume or possess any alcohol during this matter. I do realize this is a standalone misdemeanor bail jumping, but I think that cash bail is warranted for the specific facts that are behind the allegations here. So it's alleged the defendant has a no alcohol condition in a pending domestic violence related case. He apparently was quite intoxicated. I'm seeing 0.22 levels, which is slightly concerning, and is alleged to have texted the victim of the domestic case a picture of himself under a bridge with a belt as if he was going to kill himself, which is a method of power and control to manipulate the victim into replying to him. He's violating specific conditions and engaging in really nasty behavior here. So I do think that that warrants cash bail just for the virtue of the violation of court orders.
Okay, and Attorney Anderson.
Well, just one moment, Your Honor, excuse me. So we would be requesting a signature bond in this case. I think a couple of things, as I understand reading the criminal complaint, I mean, there's no charge for contacting the victim in the underlying domestic case, and it says that he had sent a picture of himself. He just told me briefly that it was not to the alleged victim in the domestic case. Yes, alcohol, and it does seem like he had a fair amount to drink that day, but ultimately it's a process. He told me just a moment ago that he would submit to random breath test or to alcohol monitoring, breath testing through pretrial services. Unfortunately, the court doesn't, I believe, have the capability of ordering that. He also told me that even the low amount of bail requested by the state would have the effect of keeping him in custody. So it is a small amount of bail. He does have a very young son who he is at least partially responsible for. And given that this is a bail jumping related to alcohol consumption, I think that a signature bond makes sense here. Thank you.
All right. Just give me a second. All right, well, I haven't heard anything about failures to appear. I haven't located any, I haven't gotten through the entirety of the criminal history, but we're more than 13, 14 years old at that point. So that's pretty good. This is not an Act 3 eligible offense. The conduct that the state's concerned about really hasn't been charged or doesn't apply really to the charge that's been set forth here. He was possessing and consuming alcohol against his bond condition. It wasn't charged as a disorderly conduct or a violation of the underlying conditions. I certainly probably would have considered pretrial services. I don't have that at my disposal. I often don't set cash bail as low as $150 as the sole amount of cash. So I guess I'm gonna order a signature bond. You get one last opportunity, Mr. Nielsen. You continue to violate bond conditions. It's not a good look, and cash might be appropriate if you come back in again. I will order as a condition that you not possess or consume any alcohol at all, and we'll be adjourned.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Everyone.
All right.